What up, nerds? This is your Supreme Leader. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing which trilogy did it better. Was it the Prequel Trilogy or the Sequel Trilogy? Now, I'm going to answer that, but before I do that, I want you to hear me out on this. We're only talking about the movies. I'm not going to talk about the Clone Wars or the TV shows on Disney+. We're just going to talk about the movies in general, and then we'll get to the good stuff. Prequels versus sequels, let's do this. So first things first, let's talk about the Prequel Trilogy, the prequels. Personally, one of my most favorite trilogies in Star Wars, if I can say. First, I'm going to talk about the good about the Prequel Trilogy. First things first, the lightsaber fights were awesome, a lot of memorable characters, a very tragic story, more like the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker transforming to Darth Vader, and also the fall of the Jedi Order. The prophecy. I love the prophecy. And who does not love a good Star Wars meme? Hello there. That's nice. Ooh, what else was good about the Prequel Trilogy? Pod racing. Who does not love pod racing? The dark side of Anakin, of how it started to how it ended. I like that. The transformation of Darth Vader and all these characters coming to the conclusion of the war, which we all know it's the rise of the Empire. I love that. The idea of the Siths, the rule of two. Oof. What else? I love the clones. And Order 66 was probably the most tragic and saddest Star Wars scenes in the history of Star Wars. Plain and simple. Before, as a kid, I wasn't too sad about it, but now all grown up, it's like, wow. That really feels like somebody's pulling your heart out and squeezing it and destroying it. Seeing all these characters that you grew up with getting beat to a pulp. Alright, now that the good is out, now let's talk about
the bad.
Oh man, this is gonna hurt saying this, but that relationship with Anakin and Padme in episode 2, I wasn't feeling that. The corny dialogue that they had was probably one of the worst dialogue. That was probably the cringiest love relationship I've seen. I think Edward and Bella were better. But we're just talking about movies for now. Let's see. How they killed off Jango Fett was probably the biggest crimes in the Prequel Trilogy. I wanted to see more of him. Killing off Darth Maul was probably one that upsetted everyone. And I know that because, of course, but anyway. Qui-Gon Jinn's death, that one still hurt like hell. The Jedi Council not giving Anakin the rank of a master. And that pretty much sums up everything I dislike about the Prequel Trilogy. For most of you watching, you may agree with this list. Now let's talk about the controversial trilogy. Now let's talk about everything I loved about the Sequel Trilogy. Oh, there it is. There are the boos. Okay, alright. I get it. I know some of you guys have the biggest hate boner for the Sequel Trilogy, but you know what? I love the sequels. So bite me. Alright, everything I love about the Sequel Trilogy. Let's talk about the good about the Sequel Trilogy first. The characters. I loved Rey, I loved Kylo, Poe, Finn, Leia, everyone. Alright, what else? The lightsaber fights were pretty nice. My favorite one would have to be Rise of Skywalker. Second would be the Patreon Guard fight. Alright. I also liked the story too. From Rey being a no one, not knowing her place in the galaxy, to being somebody, a Palpatine. That is, of course, she becomes a Skywalker. But we'll get to that later, I also loved how they treated the original characters too. Yep, many may hate me for this, but I kind of like how they treated Luke's character in The Last Jedi. Even Palpatine's return was pretty good too. Also a big fan of Starkiller Base, because we all know what that planet was before, if you all know what I mean. Oh, here's something that the Sequel Trilogy did better that the Prequel Trilogy didn't. As far as movies go, Reylo. Haha! Don't get me wrong, Anakin and Padme's relationship was good, but not as good as Rey and Kylo's. Changed my mind. Alright, let's see. The death of Han Solo, that was pretty well done. Really, I'm a big fan of the new planets. Great. Starkiller Base, Exegol, and gotta give some love for Canto Bight too. And we can't forget the underrated role of Snoke in this trilogy. Even though it could have been better, but I love Snoke. Pretty good storytelling, just like the prequels, which I forgot to mention. Love the actors too that portrayed these characters. Kind of forgot to mention that too for the prequels too, so yeah, I'll say that for both. That was the good, now let's talk about
the bad.
Oh, what did I hate about this trilogy? The character of Kylo Ren redeeming himself to be Ben Solo, just so they could kill him off at the end of Rise of Skywalker. That pissed me off, and I made a video about that, and oof, not a really big fan about that. What else did I not like about this? The fact that Rey was able to shrug it off at Rise of Skywalker. That was really unpleasant to see. Look, I get it. Ben is dead, but damn, show some emotion there. They could have at least shown her crying or something. At least a tear. Oh, what else did I not like? I didn't like how they killed off Chewbacca. That would have been impactful if they actually did, because when I went to watch the movie for the first time, I was crying, and then just so the next scene's like, oh, he's not dead. More impactful if they would have just killed Chewbacca there. That would have hurt. Wasn't a big fan of the Canto Bight scene of just Finn and Rose going through all of that. Felt that was a little unnecessary, but you know, world building. Okay, another thing I did not like was that Snoke got killed off. He should have been primarily the villain of this whole story, rather than just have Palpatine come back. But you know what? I love Palpatine too. But Snoke could have been the villain of all of this. I didn't like how they treated Finn's character. He could have been the leader of the Resistance. They could have made him into a Jedi as well. Missed opportunity there. What else? They killed off Captain Phasma. Did not like that too as well. And I really did not like that one scene from The Force Awakens where they get into this one ship and then you got all those, I forgot the name of those guys, but could have been something much better, you know, with space pirates, but they weren't really space pirates. Alright, what else? But the main thing that I really hate about the sequel trilogy would have to be that they ended with naming Rey Skywalker. They could have just said just Rey Palpatine, Rey Solo. I didn't even mind Rey Solo, but Rey Skywalker, that was just a bit weird. And that pretty much concludes everything that I hate about the sequel trilogy. Now the question is, which is the better trilogy? The prequel trilogy or the sequel trilogy? As far as movies go. This is probably going to be the most difficult choice I do, but you know what? I'm going to get love or hated for this, but the sequels do 1 point better than the prequel trilogy does. 10 out of 10 for the prequels, 11 out of 10 for the sequels. Why do I say that? I say it for the acting. I say it for the choice of actors in the movies in the sequel trilogy. The stories and risks that they had to take for the sequel trilogies were much better than what was partaken in the prequel trilogy. And I'm not saying this to bash the prequels. The prequels are personally one of the best Star Wars movies out there. One of the best stories told, just like the sequels as well. Sure, the prequel trilogy has some terrible movies, first and second, but then you got that golden one, the third one. And as for the sequel trilogy, you got the first and second, and then unfortunately, the third one is not the golden egg, it's just a rotten one. You know, the golden one could be The Last Jedi, but the third one just wasn't it. It kind of balances it out, you know. But for me, the sequels just do a better job than the prequels. In reality, I think both trilogies are really good. And a lot of people give a lot of slack for the prequels, which were once the most hated trilogies out there. And now that the sequels are out, with much better technology, acting, etc., now it's getting hated just like the prequels. Especially since one, it's owned by Disney, and two, Lucas is not there. So then I found these pictures right here about which one is the better trilogy, and I actually read them, and I found these quite interesting, so I'm just going to go ahead and read these. The Prequel Trilogy versus the Sequel Trilogy has a plot that actually makes some sense. Winner, Sequel Trilogy. Likeable protagonist who doesn't whine about everything. Winner, Sequel Trilogy. Intense action scenes that aren't just CGI vomited onto the screen. Winner, Sequel Trilogy. Comic relief that's occasionally funny. Winner, Sequel Trilogy. Well-developed, intimidating antagonist. Winner, the Sequel Trilogy. Characters that have believable relationships and good chemistry. Winner, Sequel Trilogy. Lastly, dialogue that isn't more wooden than a Wookiee treehouse. Winner, Sequel Trilogy. But in reality, it should be like this. Why did I do this? Because it's only fair. Sequel versus Prequels Part 2 has a plot that actually leads somewhere. Winner, Prequel Trilogy. Isn't just a quick money grab by Disney. Winner, Prequel Trilogy. Completely original and did not take 90% of its plot from the original trilogy. Winner, Prequel Trilogy. No pointless side characters. Winner, Prequel Trilogy. Made by the original creator of Star Wars. Winner, Prequel Trilogy. Has the best lightsaber duels in Star Wars history. Winner, Prequel Trilogy. Is a meme goldmine. Winner, Prequel Trilogy. Now, whoever made this right here, and like the other one before, is a little biased towards the sequels, or hates the sequels, so it should be more like this. Now, that's what I'm talking about. So you see, no matter how much you want to turn it over to the sequels because it's Disney, because it's this, because it's that, it's always going to have everything the prequels have. Now, I always like to save the best for last, and this one really got to me because of all the things that all these characters had to go through each episode. So let's go through it, shall we? Rey's lineage. In The Force Awakens, there are hints to Rey being related to a Force user because of the strong connection, but ultimately claimed that she is a no one. In The Last Jedi, doubles down on Rey being a nobody, the idea that she is just a powerful Jedi that has no lineage. And Rise of Skywalker, completely 180 into Rey being a descendant of the clone Palpatine that is the antagonist of the film. So as you guys can see, Rey has purpose. Let's see what it says about Finn. In The Force Awakens, Defector trying to escape the clutches of the First Order develops a friendship with Rey, causing his desire to stay with the Resistance. In The Last Jedi, he reverts back to Defector-type role in order to alert Rey of the First Order, ends up adventuring with Rose to see the need of the Resistance, and ultimately joins. In Rise of Skywalker, he becomes an acting general alongside Poe, and ultimately reverts back to his attachment to Rey, explores a Force-sensitive plot that was alluded to earlier, but overdoes it. Now, as for moi, in The Force Awakens, he's an edgy villain who is a tool for his master, emotional issues with regards to his family, all-around lonely individual with no attachment, viewed as weak because he was defeated by Rey on Starkiller Base. True. In The Last Jedi, kills his master to obtain more power, uses the link between him and Rey to try and form an attachment, more emotional than ever now that he is the supreme leader, gives into his anger stemming from his family. Rise of Skywalker continues searching for Rey to bring to the Emperor, and eventually finds her, to which they fight. The death of Leia and Rey's constant hope leads him to turn to the light, and he becomes Ben Solo again. In conclusion, my friends, sequels, in my opinion, are still better than the prequels.
You lose.
Well, my friends, I could hear the screams of maybe millions of fanboys who are going to come into my comment section and argue with me about how terrible the sequels and Disney are, how much of a shill I am. So I'm going to conclude the video right now and get into cover because it's about to be a blood zone out here. So I'm only going to say thank you all for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe for more content. Goals to 1,000. What do you guys think? Prequels are better than the sequel trilogy, or are the sequel trilogy better than the prequel trilogy? Let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.